Hey, hello, everybody. Good morning if you're somewhere where it's bright and early, or good afternoon, good evening. I hope it's not too late. I am usually so excited to talk to you all. And today I'm excited, but a little bit sad. So this is the very last stream that we're going to be doing for this web development bootcamp. And I know I've been sort of teasing this for a while, saying, oh, hey, well, we're going to be talking about what's coming up next soon. And we do have the announcement for that ready. So we are going to be doing another boot camp. And we are going to be going ahead and teaching a JavaScript boot camp for those of you who want to take the skills you've learned in this 12 weeks and move on and add JavaScript to your skill set. Isn't that exciting? Let me go ahead and grab the link to that. I should have that already, but I'm a goofus. And I'll drop that in the chat just in case. And we're going to do something a little bit different with the next boot camp. So we're not going to start until January. Cool, fine. November's busy. December's busy. There's a lot of things going on. Hey, everybody. Oh, gosh, we've got tons of people here. Hello, my lovely. Don't you ever worry about missing classes. The whole point of this being set up as streaming and on-demand videos, there's never any worry. Hello, hello. So here's and y'all must be getting all kinds of background noise because the heater's running as well. And I'm not even sorry. Like it's chilly. The heater's going to be running. So let's talk about the next boot camp. It's going to be in January. So that's a little bit far away. If you want an unstructured way to look at some of the JavaScript, I'm going to be continuing to stream on Mondays and Tuesdays, but only here on Twitch. That's just so I can sort of refresh my own JavaScript skills because I am really cheerfully not amazing at that. So if you want to come hang out with me on Twitch, I'm Jesslyn Rose. You're super welcome to, but I recommend waiting because if you wait, we're going to have a whole boot camp for you. Sorry, I just noticed that like all of my exercise equipment and a bunch of like towels and stuff are out. Very, not very professional of me. And we're doing a couple of things different the next boot camp. We're adding another instructor, which I think is really, really important because we're adding an instructor who's actually terribly good at JavaScript. So you all are going to get really sound, really informative leadership on JavaScript. And the JavaScript time slot is going to be roughly the same-ish time as now, maybe a little bit later, but afternoons GMT. But one thing we're going to do is we're going to change the intensity. So we got a lot of feedback from this 12-week boot camp saying, hey, this is going really slow. And we feel that. Yeah, it's really, really slow. You know how they points it out? Half the time. Yeah. We're going to be doing these boot camps in 6 weeks instead of 12. Woof, that's a lot. But at the same time, all of the work on your freeCodeCamp platform, that's never going to go away. If you miss a couple weeks and you need to come back, the on-demand videos are going to be available. Yeah, never feel like because you've fallen behind that you can't catch up or that it's not for you. It's stressful, but everything's fine. And the other thing we're going to do is I'm going to be teaching mornings GMT. So I'm going to be teaching the same course that we've been doing all over again. Nice and chill. I get to talk to the brand new folks who are excited about the web. And Ramon is going to be teaching you all. Some of you may remember him from the Saturday session we did together. And he's such a sweetie, isn't he? He's going to be teaching you all JavaScript. If you say, wait, mornings are better for me, but you're not teaching JavaScript in the mornings, with the classes just being 6 weeks, go ahead and wait. Both of us will cover both material sort of back and forth in future boot camps. Everything's stressful and weird, but everything's going to be okay. Really importantly, it's still going to be completely free. It's still going to be asynchronous if you need it. We never want your money. Oh, Tanya, good morning, my lovely. Oh, you know what? Another thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be changing the format of the streams a little bit. So when I originally paced this out, I thought 2 hours a week. And we got a lot of feedback that more often Shorter streams are going to be cognitively easier on folks. And we had that fantastic guest session from Dr. Barbara Oakley and from Zach really early on where they said, hey, little chunks of learning are often better for you. We say, okay, cool. Yeah, we recognize that. We're not going to argue with neuroscientists. So what we're going to do in the new streams for the lessons are we'll be having them 3 times a week, 3 lessons a week. It's a lot, right? And I'll be starting my streams a little bit early so that folks can socialize and say, hey, and talk about what we're working on. And then we'll have an hour of just the lessons. We'll not take question and answer during that session because we want to make sure that those videos are really useful for folks who want to use them after the fact. And then we'll have question and answer after that 1 hour, very focused session. Will that sound okay? And do you know what? I'd be so excited to answer anybody's questions about the upcoming boot camps in January. Those will start January 10th. And do you know what? I'll go ahead and drop you all the JavaScript link just in case you want to sign up. No pressure. Yeah. Oh, Magister, good morning or good afternoon. I have never remember what time zones people are. Hello, my lovely. That's safer. So the JavaScript sign up is at classcentral.com/studygroups, JS Bootcamp Spring 2022. And that's going to be super hard. Ooh, it's going to be so exciting. It'll be really challenging, cognitively challenging, good challenging. So while we're talking about challenging things, I want to talk to you, and this whole session is set up to let me fuss over how clever you are, but also to talk about the final projects. And one question I've got a lot about these final projects is, do I have to be done by the end of the week? And no, my lovely, you absolutely don't. So because these projects are for you to work on your own, you can take as much or as little time as you need to get through them. Yeah, it's stressful, but it's okay. For those of you who are here with us live, how many of the projects have you gotten through? Which ones are finished or which ones have you started? Yeah, talk to me about which projects you're working on. And I'll be real. And of course, give me any of the questions you want. Absent questions, one thing I thought we might do is go ahead and sort of talk through how to turn user stories into sort of a checklist for what we're doing here. So just to recap, if you have any questions about the upcoming boot camps, shout at me. If you have any questions about what project you're working on, you're stuck on one of the projects, yell those at me too, and we'll go over those in real time. Also, please brag about which ones you're working on. What, Catherine? Catherine, it sounds like I'm fussing at you for being great, but 4 out of 5, that's better than I've done. I've been doing this as we follow along, and I confess I haven't been hustling through the projects very quickly. No, that's fantastic. That's amazing. Matchstore has a really good question to say, hey. We know that when we're looking at the YouTube, hey, folks on YouTube, these all get kicked over to the Class Central YouTube account, and that's really chill, and you can watch it on their channel. But the instructors are using individual Twitch. Let me go ahead and find, because Ramon is the instructor, and he is, you know what, he's going to be embarrassed if I fuss over him, but he is the nicest, much better teacher than me, much nicer. Let's go ahead. Here's for our Twitch folks. That's where you can find Ramon on Twitch. And he's just a sweetheart as well. We didn't want to make people pick a platform. So right now, the system we're using means that you all can watch on YouTube, and that works perfectly well. Or you can watch us on Twitch, and that works perfectly well. And we wanted to keep that. We thought, oh yeah, it's a little unkind to make people, oh, you must use an Amazon product, or you must use a YouTube or a Google product. So I want to say, cool, you can use the platforms you feel the most comfortable with. Yeah. Lewis, you finished all of those. All of them? You're done. You're just completely done. Okay. In that case, Lewis is volunteering. So if anybody needs some help, Lewis, is the best places to get you is probably going to be on the forums, isn't it? Where is so of course this isn't just that we're going to offer some help on the stream. You can go to group.classcentral.com and get some help from other folks, and it'll be super chill. Yeah. Oh, Tanya's got a really good point saying, hey, and this is so normal. This isn't just you, but really struggling with, and would it be a bit of a step to say sort of the not just the practicalities, but the concepts behind responsiveness are hard, aren't they? So my really general advice, which isn't super, super helpful because it's sort of pushing you at a philosophy, is to say, hey, the last couple of sessions, so when we learned about Flexbox and when we learned about grid, I think, and you're probably going to want to choose, oh, I'm sticking with Flexbox for this project or grid, just to keep it clear in your head. But I find using these instead of things like floating CSS on your page, floating elements around, is often a lot. I was going to say it's a lot steadier, but that's the opposite of what we want in responsiveness, isn't it? Things seem to flow a bit better working with either the Flexbox model or the grid model instead of sort of trying to conceptually move our CSS around like we're moving elements on a piece of paper. Yeah, that's a really waffly piece of advice, though. I bet you're already doing that. So one thing we're going to do first, where am I? What a challenging conceptual question. Where am I? Oh, where am I? Here we go. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to share a window just so we can tab back and forth between these and see what's going on. Matt Shore has got a really specific, so you can't give me the code right now. And I'm so sorry that to like really troubleshoot, we're going to have to look at your code. But that might be something better to do in the forum. So you're running into a problem when you're making the viewport smaller, your Flex container wouldn't resize after some point. It's hard to diagnose the code without, and it is hard to diagnose the code without general ideas. But what could we do? What kind of ideas do we have? What kind of ideas do we have about keeping or preventing Flex from resizing? And Lewis has, I'm going to jump to Lewis's comment because Lewis makes a really good point here. Sometimes CodePen is fiddly with responsiveness, especially in the previews. So in that little preview box, let's take a look at that. There's a preview page. So down in this preview section, that it can be really fiddly, can't it? So sometimes it's not you, it's CodePen. But coming back to match source, do you know what? I think we learned a trick, didn't we? We learned a trick. Was it in CSS Grid? Was it? Where we learned a magic trick where we could tell CSS not to change something if we didn't want it to change under. There we are. So I might send you back. I still have no idea what this is doing. I might send you back to the lesson that says use media queries to create responsive layouts. So this, we really explicitly is a word. This let us say, hey, I want to set a rule. And here we go. Media, if the width is at least 300 pixels, set these rules. If the width is at least 400 pixels, set these rules. And that might be the kind of thing you're looking for. Yeah. I'm not sure it'll automatically work to fix this for you. But yeah, this is where I might poke around first. Chris, all right. So you're struggling on project 2. And sorry to sound so excited to be like, oh, you're struggling. I mean, it sucks, but it's not when I say it's not unexpected, I don't mean, of course you're struggling, but it's hard. Let's go ahead and let's grab these user stories and let's start breaking them down. Remind me what project 2 is. I'm an old lady and do not remember much. Nope. A survey. Oh, survey form. That's nice and hard. So one thing I'm going to do, and this is going to seem super weird, I like to be super weird though. I'm going to start a new pen and I'm going to call this survey project. So far, all super chill. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a great big old HTML comment. You know what? The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this JavaScript. We haven't learned about JavaScript yet. It's not my problem, not my job. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all of these user stories. 16. 16? This, I don't know about you, but this seems cruel and unnecessary, doesn't it? 16 user stories. And let's go ahead and let's start breaking these down. Just real laid back. So, oh, I see your confusion because you said, hey, I can see a title with the ID of title here in H1 size text. And Chris, you're really rightly saying, Jess, how is it an H1 if it's a title? And I think because they didn't explicitly teach us about putting the title in the head of our website, I think what it means here is I think you can, and I would put, let's do this together. So head. And you're quite rightly saying, well, Jess, do you know what? I know that my title would be here, isn't it? And I said, yes, you are absolutely correct. I think, and what's really difficult is user stories is they're given to us like word problems in math class, aren't they? So this, I can see a, and I'm like, no, just tell me what to do. How frustrating. Matchstore makes a really good point. Matchstore says, hey, the title and the header, that's what we see at the top of our tab, isn't it? Where the title on the header of this first one is Responsive Web Design Project. And this one is A Pen by Jessica Rose. But I think here we can't have a proper title, but I think this one is indeed, yep, in head, not header. You're absolutely right, Maestro. Here, I think we should just do the title twice. So we know in our hearts that the title element is its own thing. But here it's saying, give me an H1. I'll say, okay, we'll put our title in the H1 as well. Let's say our title is called Cool Survey. This will be a survey asking people what they think is cool. Here, I think just based on this, based on what it's saying, I can see a title with the ID of title in H1 size text. I'm going to put my title here too, just because I think, you know what? I think this is what this is asking for. Yeah. So it's not a title element, but it's still the title. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this, we're going to go ahead and in the same way, we're going to continue to decode what these user stories are telling us. And Chris, that was such a fantastic question. I really appreciate it. So let's talk through some of the rest of these. And we'll do some of them, but not all of them. Oh, wait, heck. I was like, oh, we're done. But we're not done. This one has the ID, which is equal to title. And again, we know in our hearts, that's not a title, that's an H1. But you know what? It's going to run automated tests. And we're going to give it to it in an understandable format. And I just want to talk through really naturally no. I lied. I'm not going to do this work. I'm so energy efficient. I am going to lovingly and affectionately make you do it. So I'm going to read these user stories. And if you could tell me in the chat. So if I say, user story 1 says, I can see a yellow cat sitting on a fence, go ahead and type into the chat 1 and then a different way. So what you would expect to design or what you would expect to do. You can give me the code if you really want to, or you can just say, put a yellow cat sitting on the fence. So we can use different kinds of plain language, or we can use the HTML and CSS code we think is going to work. But as a deeply lazy person, I'm going to make you do it. So go ahead and tell me. Let's take a look at the ones we have here. So you can go ahead in the chat and give me either plain language or the code for user story 2, 3, 4, or 5. And user story 2 is saying, I can see a short explanation with the ID description in pea-sized text. What is this actually asking us to do? I can see a short explanation with the ID of description in pea-sized text. Give me the code, or just tell me in plain English what it wants me to do. You'd be like, Jess, it wants you to, and I'll do that. And while I'm giving you a little bit of time, let's look at 3, 4, and 5 as well. User story 3 says, I can see a form. And this one feels pretty steady to me. This is a little less mysterious. Ooh, yeah, let's come through this and then let's look at the answers. User story 3 says, I can see a form. I think a form exists. And it's got the ID of survey form. Chill, that's doable. And user story 4 says, hey, inside the form element, so again, I'm getting a hint there's a form element, I'm required to enter my name in a field with ID equals name. And then user story 5 says, hey, also within the form element, and it says the form element. So I think maybe there's just one. It says, I am required to enter an email in the field with the ID of email. Yeah. Oh, and Tanya's well ahead of the game. Oh, heck. We've got multiple ones of you being great. So for number 2, Jonathan saying P with the ID of description, stuff. I mean, it does stuff works. It's our own spiritual ipsum lorem for the 2020s. Tanya saying, I'd like you to, or I think you should. Go ahead and make a paragraph tag. Make me a paragraph and go ahead and put whatever kind of text you want in there. And Catherine, look at this. Oh, Catherine, are you keeping me lazy? I could just copy paste this. Paragraph, we got a paragraph from last ID description, and then tell us what you think is cool in this form. Very, very chill. And really, this is the big puzzle behind user stories. If we've got a list of things we have to do, but it's not just saying, do this thing, and then that thing, and then that thing. It's not the instructors, it's not the instructions that we got used to in the lessons. And let's talk a little bit about, while you all tell me what to do about 3 and 4 and 5, tell me about, gosh. Let me tell you about what's going on with the idea of user stories. And we're going to break this up a little bit. So I would say within technology, not just programming, tech wider, maybe other people do this too. There's the concept of your personas. You've got a mental model, or you've got some research about what kinds of people your users are. You're going to research things like, what kinds of computers do they have? What kind of connection? What kinds of things do they want? And what kind of things do they expect to see? So this is part of user research. Remember, almost a month ago, we had Florence come and talk to us about what is user experience? What is user research? So building an idea of who we think our users or our potential users might be is a big part of user research. And what we've got here is user stories. And we're taking what our users expect, the research we've done on who they are, hopefully not too creepy, like, ooh, we don't need their social security numbers or addresses or anything. Ooh, just generally what they expect from us. And some of these things that your users expect from you are always going to be true. All of you absolutely have to. It is not an option. You need to build accessible things for the web. It's not an option. You have to, or else I will personally be very disappointed. You all have to build websites and web experiences that let people access the functionality. So you need to design it well enough where people can do what they're trying to do. You must do it. It's non-optional. But then these user stories, we've researched who we think our users might be. We've researched what we think they need and what they expect from us. And these user stories is taking that research that we've hypothetically done and breaking these down into little, usually individual features or individual aspects that we can then start coding out. So we've got the form ones. Unfortunately, if I do too many of these, it's gonna give away how to do it all. So I'm gonna come back and let's pick another one. Do we want to take a look at the? Do you want to play one on the tribute page? The tribute page is the easiest one. It's still hard, but because it's the easy. Wait, have most of you already finished this one? Would I be wasting your time to look at it? Have a fuss at me. If I would be wasting your time to look at it, I'll go ahead and look at the portfolio one, which I confess I haven't looked at all in ages. This one's the hardest one, isn't it? Oof. Is it loaded? Is it terrible? Oh. Okay. This is pretty complex, isn't it? And to make this more exciting, these look brutal to actually do. Let's start this. I want to leave this side. I don't care if it's not saved. It's no big deal. Let's create a new pen, and you can make as many of these as you want. Oh yeah, and Tanya's saying, you know what, in the tribute page, the figure tag and centering the image inside it is really hard, and like making it responsive. And you know what, was it? Oh, you know what? Who made this point? Lewis made this point, and I really want to call this out again to say, hey. CodePen, sometimes you can do it absolutely perfectly, and CodePen won't quite center it, or it's kind of wobbly responsively. And a way to check whether or not it's CodePen or whether or not it's you is going to be to create an HTML file. So open a new folder on your desktop or wherever, I'm not the boss of you, and create a file called index.html, and like a file, like a plain text file, and copy and paste your HTML over there. The difficulty there is you need to make sure you're going to link to your CSS file, but you can also create a file for your CSS. Yeah, and Jonathan makes a really good point and said, Jess, you're approaching, and Jonathan, you didn't say this accusatory part, but I'm going to say it because it's right. Jonathan's saying, Jess, you're giving us advice like it's 1997. We could just go to VS Code and make this happen, couldn't we? I said, I am giving you advice like it is always 1997 in my heart. But you could go into VS Code and do this possibly much more easily than make a folder. You are so patient, deep in my grimy, cold little heart. I'm always trying to technically drag us back to the heyday of the web. Wow, Catherine, you're already doing this in VS Code and then move it over to the... Oh, wow. Do you know what? If I'm not being a bully, I might try and lovingly, there's no pressure, get you to come and talk about that to the next boot camp. And Jonathan's saying I use Atom, and Atom is, if you're not using these, if you're staying in the sandbox environment, you don't have to know these to pass. VS Code is a popular text editor and coding environment made by Microsoft? Y'all back me up here. Whereas Jonathan is using Atom, and that's just a different one made by the people at GitHub. And Matt Shore is saying, hey y'all. I don't know if you personally say y'all. If it's 4:00 there, you're probably not from a y'all using region. Matt Shore is saying, hey, check this out. You've got a live preview extension in VS Code. And that's pretty chill. Cool. Sadie's backing me up saying, yeah, no, cool. VS Code's made by Microsoft. Whew. So let's take this absolutely devastating, I'm going to minimize this one, project. This portfolio project is definitely going to be the hardest, isn't it? Unfortunately. So even though Even though this one's going to be the hardest, I think this project is also going to be the most useful because when you're done with it, I want to again lovingly pester you to put this live. You've made a portfolio at the end of this. I want you to turn it into a real portfolio. And one thing that's really notable when we look at the user stories for our portfolio site is this isn't telling us everything we need to do. It's not a tutorial where it's step one, step two. It's telling us a lot of things we need, but it's not giving us every single step. It's abstracted away some of the steps we think we need. What would I? Oh, look at me. I'm so deliciously lazy. My beloved learners, what am I going to put at the very top? What is going to be the first thing I put in my brand new, clean HTML file? Yeah, doc type. What's the doc type it is? And what am I going to put after the doc type? And after that, give me these big, not top level, because the thing that happens after doc type is top level. Wait, is that right? Is that how we do doc type? I always forget whether or not I need that. Yeah. Oh, it's little. So being capital or lowercase won't hurt it any. It's just the convention. But, oh, and there's no space there. Y'all, I'm just going out of my way to be as rubbish as possible. And you are so patient. So we've got the doc type. Oh, we've got a really good question from Nico. Nico's like, hey, Jess. Oh, hey, Nico. So do we have to style every exercise apart from the HTML part to make it fully responsive? Nico, I'm going to be mean to you because you're like, oh, sorry for my English. This is so clear. This is a perfectly written question. Never apologize for being brilliant and wonderful. I don't think you do. So you're going to have to, they're going to have an automated checker, which will check that you've met all of these user story requirements. Um, and it's good practice to make it as responsive as possible, but nobody is going to show up at your house and fight you if this isn't super, super fully responsive. So it's good practice to make this as responsive as possible to learn, but you can still get your certification, and especially for the first couple of ones, even if this isn't super, super responsive. So in a perfect world, yeah, you must, but we've learned a lot over the last couple of years, and this is not a perfect world we live in. Doing just enough to pass the certification sounds like doing enough to me. So, Nico, do you want to make it super, super styled out and beautiful and incredibly responsive? Yes, if you want to learn as much as you possibly can. But no, you don't have to do all that to get your certification. Ooh, is it good practice to start with margin 0, padding 0? If you want to. I've not seen any arguments for that being especially good. Um, yeah. What's the default margin and padding in CSS? Yeah. DuckDuckGo knows what I want. Default style sheet. Okay. This is a fun question. Firefox and Safari, the margin is 1em and 0 pixels. So, what? Oh no, we're going into the spec. This can't possibly end well. I'm going down a rabbit hole looking for what the default margin and padding is. I don't know if it is. It looks like it might be browser dependent. If you want to make sure that there's 0 margin and 0 padding regardless of what browser somebody's using, yeah, you can do that. But nobody's going to make you. It's such a good question. And as soon as I hit the full CSS spec, I was like, no, I'm not gonna. I love you all. I love all of your good questions. I am absolutely not digging through the full spec to find it. I'm very mean. So we've got doc type HTML. What am I going to put next? What kind of section? And these, you don't technically need to do these, but we're going to do them right because we are great big nerds. Oh, heck. We're going to do these wrong because I'm me. And the other reason we're going to do this, as we're going to take special care with our portfolio project, is we're going to use this, aren't we? And when you finish this, please, please, please come and get me. So, oh gosh, and if you're a bootcamp grad, if you're a bootcamp attendee, unfortunately, due to the scale of the bootcamp, somebody's at the door. Unfortunately, due to the scale of the bootcamp, we can't really do a lot of career support. So like career placement but if you have a portfolio you want to show off, or you're looking for work and you use social media, you can message me on Twitter anytime. And I will always, always say, oh, here's one of my students. I'll say nice things about you. It'll be embarrassing, but I'll always share your work. I'll always share that you're looking for, if you're looking for jobs. If you're comfortable on social media, there's no obligation to. You can always hit me up there and I'll help any way I can within the bounds of my fractured attention and my feeble human brain. So we're going to do the HTML, and that's also sometimes known as root, isn't it? We've got our head, and our user story isn't asking for any of this, is it? We're doing this right, or we're doing this as right as we can, because we think it's really likely, if I'm a learner, I'm going to want to go and work in tech, right? Yeah, I want a fancy web developer job. You all are web developers right now. The only thing that's keeping you from being professional web developers is getting someone to pay you. So I say, okay, if we're making these portfolio pages, we think that we're going to continue to add to them. Yeah. So it's not that we're going to just make this project and then be done. We're going to continue to update them when we go into the JavaScript bootcamp as well. So not just showing off our HTML, CSS, and accessibility and design work, but later on, we're going to add our JavaScript stuff. And secondly, when we're looking for work, business cards are very old-fashioned these days, aren't they? They're a bit out of style. But a portfolio page is never going to go out of style. You're going to keep updating it. It's going to be a living document, which is this really cool HTML concept that you can make the equivalent of a book or a magazine that grows with you. Ooh, Catherine, make it. You know what? I think every element has its own default margin padding. I think that's true. And Catherine saying, like, me personally, and Catherine is obviously the person to emulate here. Just always so considered with your projects. You say, I set them to 0. That way, I've got that really handled well. Yeah. So we've got our big wobbly structure. Yeah, let's go ahead and start breaking down some of these user stories. Because these are a little mysterious. And what we're going to do is we're just going to, ooh, yeah. That's the other thing that's nice about using. Oh, so are we going to do a talk about portfolio building? Yeah. But due to time constraints, we've had to move that into the January bootcamp. So we have a really, really exciting sponsor who wants to come and talk to us about building portfolios and building responsive portfolios. But some of the work some of the technical material is going to require some JavaScript understanding. And it was sort of a back and forth on, it would be so nice to get this in, but it would be so cruel to you all to give you stuff that's a little bit challenging level-wise. I'm so sorry to have something that didn't get into this boot camp. I just wanted to make sure we were giving you stuff at the appropriate level so it wouldn't be depressing. Depressing is not the right word. Demotivating. But Tanya, you're absolutely right. And thank you so much for pointing that out. So the nice thing about using CodePen, the nice thing about using most text editors is we can have an auto format, which just breaks stuff down for us. Let's go ahead and continue to hit me with any other questions you have. We're going to go ahead and spend maybe the next 20 minutes answering some questions and taking some of the user stories into this project. And then we're just going to go and chill. I like to get discussions of homework out of the way early because it's always very scary and stressful. And I bet you can guess your homework. And to make your homework harder, it's not just homework for this week. This is going to be your homework for the rest of the boot camp work. But your homework is going to be as gentle and careful with yourselves as you can. And that this is different because this isn't just for the rest of the day or for tomorrow. You've got to continue. You've been practicing being really gentle to yourselves for 12 weeks. You've got to continue to be as gentle to yourselves as you can for as long as you can. Look at that. I'm just like, nope, this is how you live now. If you don't mind, if that's not a bother for homework, just, try and live your life as soft and gentle to yourself as you can. That's me overstepping a bit, telling you what to do. But also go ahead and I'd love to see you all setting goals for how you want to handle the rest of the projects. It's really tempting to say, I got 7 days in a week. I'm going to study every single day and work on this and that's Barbara Oakley suggested a little bit every day. That's definitely the best way to do that. But you know what? That's also probably not realistic. So I'd rather have like much more realistic goals to say, hey, 3 days this week, I'm going to work on my projects, or 4 days, 5 days, sure, 6 or 7. That's it. I mean, you absolutely could, but then that's going to start to fight with your homework to be gentle with yourself and rest, isn't it? So we're going to come in here. What's up? Oh gosh, HTML does go in body. Thank you so much. What? I got you. I love how this is also yelled at me to say, hey, Jess, you forgot that body exists. And I did. Ooh, look at that. Jonathan is giving out additional homework. And this is so important, just very aggressive at the camera. And Jonathan makes a fantastic point. These projects aren't little bitty things. I was going to say, I'd love to see, I expect to see you all rewarding yourselves in small, sustainable ways as you go. So finish a project? Yeah, it is definitely time to go read comics in the bath or do whatever makes your heart soar. When you finish all of these, you must. When you get your certification, when you're done, when you finish this boot camp, you have to do something to celebrate. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you how to celebrate, but definitely come and brag about it in the forums if you don't mind. It's not actually bragging. Everybody's going to be so excited with you. And and it's really motivating. Yeah, do it for other people, if not for yourself. It's the ability to say, hey, I just got my certification, or hey, I've just finished the project. Here's what I did to reward myself. Really, if you won't do it for you, think about how you're modeling really good self-care for other people. Ooh, you like that peer pressure to be good to yourselves? Fabulous. So, where are we going to start? We've got user story 1. My portfolio should have a welcome section with an ID of, with an ID of welcome session. All right. So this is telling me I should have a welcome section. And section, we know, is an HTML element. This gives me a pretty decent hint about what's going on here, isn't it? I'm going to copy the ID of welcome section because I'm nice and lazy. And really, the place that it feels most reasonable to put a welcome section. Oh, Catherine saying my code is going to cause CodePen to give out again. What have I done to it this time? I bet I've done something goofy. Catherine, you've got to give me another hint. Oh, yeah. Just HTML that goes in the body. What do you mean? When your code is rendered as a preview input, it's ultimately in an HTML. Oh, oh, oh. So this is saying that it already says doc type. It already has the head. It already has the title. So this is telling me, yeah. I did not know what that error said. And Catherine's got me. Catherine's like, hey. Just put the stuff that goes in the body. You don't even need the body. You all should never listen to me. So all of this stuff that you would absolutely put in a real HTML thing, we're not putting in here. I don't like this. I don't like it. I don't like it. Does that mean no footer? Does that mean no footer? Ugh. Outrageous. Outrageous. Not even that closing body tag. Okay. No. You're not misleading me a bit. That was me as well. So this is the way a document should work. And no. This is not the way CodePen works. And this is something we've talked about a lot during the boot camp, isn't it? That when you get sandbox environments, when you get lessons, is the footer in the body? Huh. Oh, because header and footer live in body. I'm a goofus. So we've talked a lot about the concept of abstraction. And you might think, oh, this is only something while we're learning. This is only something while we're in the bootcamp. You're going to come back to abstraction again and again in technology. And some of it can be really fundamental. When we think about programming languages, really what programming languages are is they're different frameworks. They're different ways to abstract away and talk to binary, talk to machine code, those ones and zeros. Whew. Which is conceptually just so hard to parse. Like it's all abstraction all the way down. And here, what CodePen is doing is CodePen is saying, hey, this stuff like doc type and this stuff like HTML, we've already done that for you. We've abstracted that away. So you don't need to think about it. But in the real world, when you're doing this in your code, you will have to think about it. VS Code and Atom and a lot of them will automatically paste these in for you as well as an option. You are an absolute saint, Saf. I'm going to make you come and live in my house so you can just yell over my shoulder, stop doing that, because that would, it would be a miserable life for you, but it would unstick me all the time. User story 1 should have a welcome section with an ID of welcome section. Ooh, cool. I feel like we can delete this. And remember that these user stories are the minimum to pass. You can have other stuff. And when you pull it out of CodePen and put it up on the web, you can do whatever you want with it. The welcome section should have an H1 element that contains text. Ooh. Oh, this is really useful. Master was saying, hey, would it be a good idea to immediately create container boxes with background colors to have the skeleton structure of my page? If this is useful for you as you think about it, if it's useful for you as you size out your page, do it. This is, yeah, and you make a good point. Like, should I flex some boxes to understand where stuff goes on my page? Really, why not? This is yours. The only, I was going to say the only rules in web development, but I'll give you the rules in web development and then the rules for these projects, because there's some additional rules for the projects, aren't there? For web development, you can do whatever you want to do. You can follow whatever process you like best, and you really follow whatever process is the softest and easiest for you. If you're working with a team, you have to match their coding conventions. And if you're working with somebody who's more junior, you've got to work in the way that's best for them. But the only things you really have to do are make sure your web page is usable, that it meets some usability requirements. Folks can do what they want to do, and that your website has to be accessible, that folks with a range of different needs can use it. Outside of that, and when I say I don't care, I'm telling you I don't care in the most loving way. I don't care about how you, that's too big. I don't care about how you're designing this, and I don't care how you're laying it out, as long as it's what's best for you. Yeah. Not, I don't care, but like, hey, I don't care. Nobody does. You're the only one on this project. Do it the way it works best for you. And while the only two rules for web development are has to be usable and has to be accessible, there are three rules for these projects. It does have to be usable. It's still the same rule. Does have to be accessible. Still got that rule. And you also have to pass these tests. You have to have these user stories. Ooh, Tanya's got a relative. Tanya's saying, hey, how often am I going to see these different things on the web? Yeah, in comparison to each other. I don't know. Percentage of web sites using Flexbox. I'm not seeing any. This is such a good question. I don't know. Magstore has a general like, oh, I checked a lot of big pages, and more are using Flex than Grid. And this tracks. So Flexbox is older, Grid is newer. So a lot of these big pages run by big teams means, hey, yep, Magstore's got it as well, saying Grid's a newer standard. Maybe these big teams aren't moving over yet. My generalized understanding is, and I'm wrong. Y'all know me. You know I'm wrong a lot. Is that normal flow, like not using Grid or Flexbox, is probably going to be the most common. Using Flexbox is going to be the second most common, and using Grid is likely going to be the least common. I did do a quick DuckDuckGo and didn't wind up with any numbers, so those are all off of the top of my head and may indeed be super waffly. Waffly being a deeply technical term for numbers that just don't amount to much of nothing. So let's go ahead and we're going to wrap up in a couple minutes. We're going to have a nice chill session today. Well, one thing we're going to do is we're just going to talk through a couple more of these points, but go ahead and give me your questions. And of course, I'm going to be happy to answer any of your questions about the new bootcamp. And so we've got a post about it on the forum. Not only am I super happy to take your questions, yell your suggestions at me. Well, yell, that's very aggressive. I would love to hear what would better serve you all. Some of the things we're trying are probably going to go ahead and stick. So things like, hey, we're doing 6 weeks into 12. Well, we've kind of committed to that. That's going to happen. Oh, heck, we've left you up there. But things like, hey, I'd love some more guest speakers to talk to us about philosophy. I'd want some more guest speakers to talk to us about accessibility. It's really what works best for you. Oh, Mads was saying, hey, dev tools. Remember that Miguel came to talk to us about Firefox dev tools. And Mads was saying, when I look at the source, love it. When I look at the dev tools and the layout tabs, it's almost always Flex. Look at you going right to the dev tools, right after my own heart. So let's talk through one more of these. You all please fuss at me with any questions. And after that, we are going to escape. We're all going to escape to be very gentle to ourselves, or else. It's telling me to have an H1 element that contains text. All right. It's the welcome session. I'm going to tell it welcome. It feels like a user story we can cross off. How many user stories do we have altogether? 11. 11, so many. But we've done 2. We've done the 2 easiest ones. We should have a project section with an ID of projects. I think we've got this. We've already made a welcome section. Let's save this. We've already made a welcome section. So we already know how to do sections. We feel pretty confident with sections, I think. Whoop, except for spelling them right and goofing off. SECT. We've opened and closed that. And the ID is projects. Right? We can do that. ID equal projects. Super chill. Ooh. The project section should contain at least one element with a class of projectile to hold a project. And this is hard. This is conceptually where it gets hard, right? Because so far, it told us what element we need. What do you all think? So if I'm making a projectile, what kind of like boxy type element? What element do you think I should use? What should I use? And do you know what? There's actually a couple possible ones. I always say to go as specific as possible. For me, in this one, I might go for the more generic one here, just because we don't know what kinds of projects we're going to wind up with. Yeah. So something like if I was a writer or journalist and I knew all of my projects were articles, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'm going to create these article boxes. But here, maybe just a plain old div, right? For these tiles, just a little conceptual box. So inside, oh, let's get rid of this user story 3. Sorry. At least one element with a class of projectile. Yeah. I'm gonna make that as a div. I'm gonna set the ID. Project tile. Yeah. You know, yeah, wait, I was gonna say a class makes more sense than an ID here, but it said class. And I'm gonna go ahead and do a couple of these. Because if I'm using a class, that means in the CSS, I'm going to be able to automatically style these out and make them look really good. Yeah. And I know this is a cheat where I've just sort of given you the very, very easiest of these. But because I'm very cruel, because I'm the meanest teacher, I think that's as far as I'm going to go with you all today. Of course, I'm not abandoning you. I'm still going to be in the forums. Everybody's still going to be in the forums. And those aren't going to go away this week. We're going to go ahead and leave those up for ages. You can keep coming back. We'll keep coming back. We're not going away. And we'll be hanging out there over the winter. When it comes time for the January bootcamp to start. And just like this one, you can sign up right now. There's no application process. I'm not going to make you write an essay. That'll go ahead and open those forms towards January, like after you're really hyped for your New Year's resolutions. But yeah, even if you're not finished with these projects, or even if you don't feel like being finished with these projects is miles away, there's no hurry. There's no worry. We're not going away and everything's fine. The world is big and scary and complicated, but all we're talking about is 5 difficult but manageable projects. And I don't even want you to think about all 5. I just want you to think about the one you're working on right now. Once that one's over, you're 20% more of the way done than you were just before. It's big and messy and stressful, but you can do this. For the very last time for this boot camp, I'm just about to sign off. If it's not a little bit hokey and if it's not a little bit sappy, I really want to thank all of you for joining us here on the streams and in the forums and helping each other out. You all have absolutely been fantastic. Getting to teach for this bootcamp has genuinely and sincerely been one of the projects I'm most proud of. You all have been so interesting, asking questions I never could have imagined, and of course don't know the answers to. And you all have been so helpful to each other. It's so encouraging. The same way the world is hard and weird these days, the internet's often pretty messy. And you all have just been so good to each other and so nice to see. I'm going to go ahead and let you go to have a very, very relaxing morning, an easy afternoon, or an end of the evening with nothing else to worry about. I'm still going to be back here on Twitch the exact same time every week, but it'll be a little bit different tone. So it's not part of the official boot camp, which starts January 10th. It's just going to be me trying not to swear too much, um, as I reacquaint myself with JavaScript. I'm going to let you all go. I cannot wait to hear about your projects. And thank you so much. Bye, my